Hello, everyone, and welcome into Coach Craig's Sports. This is the MLB DFS Core Pick video Core Pick live stream for today, Friday, June 16th. It is a large 14-game main slate, but first of all, welcome in to anybody joining. If you're checking out for the very first time, this is kind of the format that I go through. Talk about a recap of yesterday's picks, a little bit of a weather report for the games in play for today, if there's any chance of rain, severe weather, anything else like that. Do update that throughout the day down in the comments as best as possible. And then go over to FanDuel, talk about the 5 players that I do have for my core picks. There's going to be 1 pitcher, 4 hitters in general. A lot of that's based off of past history as well as recent history, a combination of both, or somebody that I have a really good feeling on. You don't have to play necessarily all 5 players together, kind of mix and match, build some stacks from there. But after that, we get into the cheat sheet, the bottom half, and my top GPP teams to stack for today as well. That cheat sheet is 100% free. It is up on Facebook, it's up on Twitter, and it's up under the YouTube community tab if you're interested in some more in-depth notes, hitter versus pitcher matchups, whether or not I consider a player or a pitcher in play, risky play, or an avoid on any given slate Monday through Friday. That is up on Patreon at patreon.com/Coach Craig Sports. But without further ado, we'll get started with the recap of yesterday's picks. So a little bit of hit or miss day here. Pitcher Dylan Cease, $8,300. We got 40 points out of him, so he was really good. He was the second overall pitcher on yesterday's slate. The only pitcher that got more points than him was Nathan Eovaldi. Nathan Eovaldi was $11,000. So the discount that we got out of Dylan Cease was pretty good at that. And then we went to his shortstop, Carlos Correa, $2,900. Got to 6 points, so he was a push. He wasn't really anybody that helped us, wasn't anybody that really hurt us at the same time. Just kind of existed in a lot of lineups yesterday. Then we had Austin Riley at $3,000. One of the Braves hitters that did not end up paying off yesterday with my Brave stack. I mainly played him. I played Ronald Acuna. I played Kevin Pillar, who actually ended up doing pretty well, and Ozzie Albies. So those were kind of the 4 main ones that I was playing. Unfortunately, Austin Riley was the one that really didn't do anything for that Brave stack for most of those stacks in general. Just kind of a down day for him overall, but he did have good history in the past versus Kyle Freeland. I was trying to remember who's pitching versus them yesterday. Then we had Ronald Acuna Jr., $4,600, got to 9.7 points. So I did give him a push. That's kind of like the lowest output we're looking for out of him on any given slate. But, not anybody that really helped us, not anybody that really hurt us. Obviously, $4,600, pretty big price tag there, but was drawing a lot of ownership yesterday. Went 0 for 2, 1 run, 1 RBI, 1 walk as well. So a little bit of everything, just not too much in the hits department for him overall. And then at Michael Taylor at $2,500, who had some pretty good history versus Matthew Boyd in the past. Unfortunately, went 0 for 2 and they got pinch hit for in this game by the Twins. So a little bit unfortunate there, a little bit of bad luck. But, if you got the right end of that twin stack, you probably did all right yesterday. But a little bit of an interesting slate just altogether. But with that being said, I'm going to stop sharing this screen. We're going to go over to RotoWire, talk about some of those weather spots potentially for today on the 14-game main slate. So the only game that is not on the main slate today is the Baltimore Orioles and Chicago Cubs game. That is the only day game going on at this point in time for today. And kind of interesting slate overall with the 14 games. Obviously, lots of opportunities to mix and match once again. So we're looking at some weather spots here. Miami and Washington. In Washington, 50% chance of rain. I will mention that I will have a core player from this game. If this game has any delays, possibility of it getting postponed or anything else like that, we'll change that throughout the day down in the comments. So definitely be sure you're checking up there throughout the day. We got New York and Boston, 18% chance of rain in Boston. So that shouldn't be a major concern. And then we got the St. Louis and Mets game, probably the biggest one today with 81% chance of rain. We'll see what ends up happening with that as the day does move along. But that would probably be the biggest one at this point in time, which, probably not the most favorable thing in the world because, Cardinals look like a decent team to stack against. Tyler Miguel and Miles Mikolas has been pitching pretty well for them as well. For Atlanta and Colorado, that was kind of the rain spot last night, but only 10% chance of rain there today, so not too worried about that one. Keep moving down here. We got a dome, 9% for Kansas City and the Angels, so not really too concerned there. A lot of domes once again, a lot of very minimal chances of rain. So, mainly the major one's going to be that St. Louis Cardinals, New York Mets game, and then Miami and Washington, maybe a little bit in Boston. But if anything does change throughout the day, like I did mention already, we'll leave it down in the comments. So definitely just make sure you're checking up there as we do get closer to lock. But with that being said, we're going to stop sharing that. We're going to go over to FanDuel and talk about the core picks that I do have for today. So let me get that pulled up here real quick. And we're going to start off by saying the pitcher for today that I have is Sandy Alcantara. This is the player that I alluded to in that Marlins game, the 50% chance of rain game. So he does have really good history in the past versus the Washington Nationals. He had 5 starts versus them last year. All 5 starts were over 40 points, 64, 55, 49, 46, and 40. Obviously has not been the greatest year for Sandy Alcantara to start the year. Been a little bit better as of late, not too worried about this Washington Nationals lineup. So I do like taking a chance on him today at $8,800. There's a plethora of other pitching options out there. Definitely feel free to reference the cheat sheet for a couple other ones. But, those additional notes on Patreon, there's a lot there. If you have any questions specifically about any specific pitcher, feel free to drop it in the live chat, leave it down in the comments, and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. But with Alcantara, definitely just do love that upside that he does offer today at a pretty cheap price tag. So we're going back-to-back pay down pitchers on back-to-back days with him and Dylan Cease. And then for our hitters, I like Freddie Freeman. Getting ahead of myself there. Freddie Freeman, I have $4,500. Obviously a pretty big price tag, but he's going against San Francisco Giants today. It is John Brebbia as the opener, and then probably Sean Manaea behind him. So in his career, Freddie Freeman 4 for 5 with 1 home run versus John Brebbia, 4 for 9 in his career with 1 home run versus Sean Manaea. So some pretty good history against both those pitchers. So do like the upside that does present there. Do like that Dodgers stack quite a bit today as well. And then when we look at what Freddie Freeman's done on the season, 328 average, 13 home runs, 45 RBIs, averaging just over 14 points per game. Obviously, $4,500 price tag, pretty high up there, but we are paying down at the pitcher position. And, the type of upside that Freddie Freeman can have on any given slate. And, really hasn't any zero spots for quite some time. So not too worried about him at this point in time either. Then we're going to move down to his teammate in Chris Taylor. He's $2,700. You can play him at shortstop. You can play him at third base. You can play him in outfield. I just clicked on him, and with what else was here, it ended up throwing him at third base. Probably more often than not, I'll get to him in the outfield. But he's another guy, going against John Brebbia, going against Sean Manaea. Once again, there's 2 pitchers there that he'll probably see. He might see Brebbia. I'm not sure about that one or not, depending on what spot he hits in the order tonight. But he is 2 for 7 with 1 home run versus John Brebbia, 4 for 14 with 1 home run versus Sean Manaea. So some pretty good history there versus both those pitchers. Kind of a slow start to the year for Chris Taylor, only a 209 average, 11 home runs, 26 RBIs, averaging just under 9 fantasy points per game at $2,700. But, he's kind of operated as that like super utility man. Max Muncy is dealing with that hamstring strain. They said they're hopeful he comes back on Saturday. So obviously looks like Chris Taylor should be in the lineup. Once again, tonight he's on a 3-game hitting streak, 3 out of his last 4 games, which this 0-for-1 was probably not a start anyways. But, there is some upside to be had there. There's some decent history in the past. He has multiple positional eligibility between shortstop, third base, and outfield, like I already mentioned. So just kind of a fancy piece that we can slide into our lineups today. And then the next hitter that I do have here is a similar type of player. He's a guy that is eligible at multiple positions on Orlando Arcia. You can play him at second base, shortstop, and third base. $2,900, averaging just over 9 fantasy points per game, going against Dilson Lamet on the mound for the Colorado Rockies today. And he's 2 for 4 with 1 home run versus Dilson Lamet in his career. Lamet has not been too good since he's been in that starting rotation for the Rockies, and really hasn't been too good ever since he kind of had those injury woes in his San Diego Padres days. So that is a matchup that we do like today with the Braves, with Orlando Arcia just in general. And he's done pretty well to start this year. So he's 327 average, 5 home runs, 23 RBIs, like I said, averaging just over 9 fantasy points per game at $2,900. Some pretty good recent games in here too as well. Didn't get a hit yesterday, but been double-digit points for 3 straight games. Had multiple hits in 3 of his last 5 games, 4-game hitting streak up until yesterday. So some pretty good history at that in the recent, plus the decent history versus Dilson Lamet in the past. And then last but not least, we're going with kind of the old timer on today's lineup in Andrew McCutchen. He's $3,100, averaging just under 10.5 fantasy points per game. So he's having kind of a pretty good renaissance season here back in Pittsburgh. He is going against the Milwaukee Brewers. It's Julio Teheran today, pitching for them, who's kind of had a little bit of resurgence for himself, honestly. A little guy that's a little bit older and pitched pretty well as of late. There is always chances for that to go wrong. But in the past, we have Andrew McCutchen 6 for 21 with 3 home runs versus Julio Teheran. Obviously, a lot more of that history is, a couple years back, since Teheran didn't really pitch too much since 2021. And that was when these two guys were facing off against each other. But both of them were, more in their prime at that point in time. So don't have too many concerns there. Do like Andrew McCutchen, because kind of an upside play just in general today. $3,100. Averaging, about 10.4 fantasy points per game on the season, 266 average, 9 home runs, 24 RBIs. Probably not going to get too much out of him in a stolen to base department anymore, but 3-game hitting streak there, modest 3-game hitting streak, hit a home run 2 games ago. Has a little bit of upside there, a little bit of downside too at the same time, but do like him as kind of a middle of the road play, even just as a one-off if you're not playing any pirate stacks just in general today. But with that being said, if you go to with these 5 players that I do have listed here, you will have $13,000 remaining, just over $3,200 per player. So lots of room and flexibility, whether you want to pay up for a couple different players, pay down at a couple other positions, or whether you want to take a little bit more balanced approach. Like I said, definitely don't have to play like all 4 of these hitters together. If you want to mix and match some more hitters, whether you want to put some different stacks in there, that is totally and completely up to you. And then if you want to mix and match a pitcher from Sandy Alcantara to somebody else, you could definitely do that as well. But like I said, quite a few options at pitcher today. Unfortunately, a couple of the ones that I did like is the paydown options in Sandy Alcantara and Miles Mikolas are kind of the 2 rain spots for today. But hopefully Alcantara's game is able to go off, and I think he could be a pretty good value at that. But with that being said, we're going to stop sharing this screen, go over to the cheat sheet over on the YouTube community tab, and talk about the top GPP teams that I do have to stack for today. So let me get this loaded up here real quick. It looks like it's moving a little bit slower today. Actually, really, really slow today. So I do apologize for that. Not sure why it's going so slow today, but in terms of the top GPP teams to stack, do have the Dodgers. Kind of talked about them quite a bit. John Brebbia is operating as the opener, probably going 1 to 2 innings, probably 2 innings max. And then Sean Manaea following him up. A lot of these Dodgers hitters have pretty good history, especially versus both these guys. So it does look like a pretty favorable matchup for them in general. Obviously, a pretty strong Dodgers lineup as well. And then I like the Chicago White Sox. They're going against Brian Wu, who's making his 3rd career start for the Seattle Mariners. Was called up from AA, so maybe they rushed him up a little bit ahead of time. But do like some of the White Sox bats, whether it's a Luis Robert, Jake Berger, Eloy Jimenez. Those 3 have been doing pretty well as of late. You could throw in Andrew Vaughn there too. Maybe Tim Anderson finally breaks out today. So a couple different options there. Gavin Sheets, if he's in the lineup, he hits right-handed pitching pretty well, but he's a little bit hit or misses too. So that is something to note. And then we get over to the Braves. Braves have decent history in the past going against Dilson Lamet. A lot of that history is pretty limited, though, but you can look at guys like Ronald Acuna. You can look at Orlando Arcia. You can look at Ozzie Albies, who's done pretty well as of late. Marcell Ozuna's got a home run versus Dilson Lamet in his career. So quite a few different options there. And then last but not least, I do like the Cardinals going against Tyler Miguel. Not a lot of history there, but some pretty good opportunities for them in general if that game does happen to go off tonight. But with that being said, it's pretty much what I do have in terms of the MLB DFS Core Pick video, Core Pick live stream for today. If you guys do have any additional questions related to MLB DFS for tonight's slate, be sure to drop them down in the comments below, and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. Also, be sure to let me know your favorite play on tonight's slate, whether it's somebody I already mentioned in the Core 5 picks, whether it's somebody from my cheat sheet, whether it's somebody from my top stacks, or a completely different player you guys think I missed. Definitely interested in hearing what you guys have to say. But with that being said, if you are brand new to my channel, checking it out for the very first time, or have yet to subscribe, would definitely appreciate it if you did take the time out of your day to subscribe. Definitely means a lot to me. Helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now, it is MLB DFS as well as USFL DFS. We have the last we had the last week of the regular season for the USFL today, so I will be doing that video a little bit later today. It'll be around 11 o'clock Central Time or so, noon Eastern Time, for the USFL DFS breakdown, doing a recap of week number 9, taking a look forward to week number 10 and the picks and kind of where I would play guys. So if that's something you're interested in, definitely be sure to check that out as well. But with that being said, that's pretty much all that I do have at this point in time. Definitely do appreciate everyone that did take the time out of their day to tune in, whether you're watching live or on replay. Definitely means a lot to me. I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck in MLB DFS tonight.